Hi, this is Dave Thomas. I'm associate editor at DarkFuse, and I'm really happy to welcome Brian Hodge, who's agreed to kind of let us pick his brain for a few minutes here. He has an upcoming novella with us called Whom the Gods Would Destroy, and also a collection next year called Worlds of Hurt. He's also the author of 10 novels, over 100 short stories, novelettes, Computer Whiz.
110 now. 110.
110
Yeah,
now.
up there.
Yeah. Um, so he's also a computer whiz. He's a musician. He's, as you can see from the pianos in the back and the synthesizers and everything else. So, welcome, Brian, and thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having from. I guess I'm the inaugural person you're doing this with, so
You are.
I'm honored.
So the new book, Whom the Gods Would Destroy. Where did the idea for this book come from, and where, what how did this come about?
The novella itself is in a nutshell, it's about the concept of extraterrestrial life, and from I come at it from a little bit different direction probably than what we usually see, and it um, the very genesis of it had pretty humble beginnings. I was down in Denver one day last year on what I sometimes call idea safari. It's something I do periodically where I just go out and wander around with no particular destination in mind. But for me, the main reason I'm out there is to come back home with something with some idea that I wouldn't have if I just stayed home. Um, so I ended up coming across this building one day when I was out there, and that I found kind of evocative. Um, it's actually a charming building, but there's something about it that I find ominous because whoever's inside wants to make sure that nobody sees what's going on inside. Um, it's not abandoned and it's not a business, and but the chain link fence, the windows are all blocked over with chain link fence, and even the second floor drapes are always pulled too. So whoever's inside, they don't want anybody seeing inside. And so I just started thinking, well, what's going on in there? That's usually all it takes is one little idea to start wondering about, and then off you go. So right away I started tapping into the characters, and I'm seeing this guy. I'm imagining this guy who has grown up never realizing that his mother is a complete monster because she was never a monster to him. For him, everything that went on was completely normal. But then I realized that this isn't even his story. It's really his younger brother's story, the second born, who would have been completely shut out of everything that bonded mother and the firstborn son, who neither of whom really considered him one of them. I found it an interesting family dynamic to kind of explore this kid growing up, knowing that something's off, something's not right, but he can't put his finger on it, and he just knows he has to get away from it as soon as he can. And to him, there was really no place on earth that would have been far enough away. So he starts looking at the sky, looking at the stars. And so when we catch up to him in the novella, he's a graduate student in astronomy.
Hmm.
So so it started in architecture.
Hmm. Yeah, that's an interesting genesis from an ominous building to a story that kind of verges on science fiction, but this main character doesn't really come off like that stereotypical science nerd either. He's got his credentials, but he's a lot more than that. So this character is pretty interesting.
Well, yeah, he's definitely got his geek card that he carries, but I was for a lot of the other aspects of him, I was actually thinking about these kind of incongruent things that we sometimes hear about and are surprised about by these various people with world class minds. Like, and I do mention this in the book, like Stephen Hawking, who's got a thing for strip clubs, and supposedly he has this history of getting private sessions where the dancers crawl all over him, like two at a time. Um, and another interesting one that I find is Richard Feynman, physicist, who probably started his career. I think he was working on the Manhattan Project, and
Hmm.
was actually the guy that cracked the Challenger explosion of the shuttle. He was the one that really got to the bottom of the issue with the O-rings during a congressional hearing. So yeah, Feynman liked lock picking and playing bongos, and then in later life, after he took up drawing, he there was a particular club that he liked to go to where he would sketch the dancers. So it's like we expect these people to be cerebral eunuchs all the time,
Mm-hmm.
and when they're not, you're surprised when they have a freak flag that they fly.
Talk about some of the composing you've been doing, because I know you recorded a soundtrack
Right.
for the book. How long did it take you? I mean, have you been doing soundtracks for a long time? Is it something you were taught to do, or?
With an earlier short story of mine called Extract, I did that kind of as a presentation with full sonic backdrop and on occasion different voice effects on for a couple of key exchanges in it. But that's the extent of it, and this, even that is something different because there's no reading involved in it, no voiceover for me. It was just it came about because when I was writing Whom the Gods Would Destroy, I didn't listen to my usual kind of playlist. I listened to a lot of space music. So, for maybe because it was something out of the ordinary that I did for this one, or just put on in the background, I started relating to it sonically to a different degree than I usually do. So it made me, for whatever reasons, it made me want to start creating some music to reflect some of the key concepts and scenes and moods in it. So it's taken about 6 months just peppering away at it off and on. I just started messing around with it at the very end of June, and I'm about wrapping it up by right now. I got 9 tracks in the can, and another one should be done in the next day or two. So, yeah, the plan is to have it available for download by the time the book comes out next week, or on Tuesday the 10th.
But World of Hurt really, really struck me, and now you have this collection of stories that coming out from us next year called Worlds of Hurt.
Yeah.
Kind of talk about that a little bit.
Well, I was. The only thing that I hadn't planned for, as far as the digital edition of any of the previous novels, was World of Hurt, and it seemed to me a good opportunity to package it together with the preceding stories in that particular mythology that I've been peppering away at. To wrap it all together as a kind of an omnibus edition as the first 4 installments in this ongoing saga that I periodically return to. So it all goes back to the Poppy Z. Bright's anthologies in the 90s, her Love in Vain anthology. But I wrote this story for the first one called The Alchemy of the Throat, which ended up being a Stoker finalist. Did a follow-up connected anthology, in the next anthology, did a follow-up story that kind of spun off from some of the characters in one sequence in the first one. Dripping Asunder Wineskins, that was the next one. That ended up being a World Fantasy Award finalist. So I try to maintain a fairly high bit of quality control with these. So that's maybe why I'm not doing them all the time. The stories that are going to be in Worlds of Hurt, I think those kind of resonate with me because they're at the root of kind of questioning about faith and about the things that have been, maybe superimposed upon you as a child, that you grow up with certain belief structures, and then coming to question that, and maybe looking at a truth beyond this particular truth that's been hammered at you and sometimes used as a bludgeon or a weapon. So so kind of the underlying ideas there, the underlying motivations of the things that I want to explore in those, that may be some of the deepest kind of stuff that I've done. So, that's always going to have that particular kind of resonance for me.